Hello and welcome to Trust Your Glitter podcast. What is up? This is Christy. I'm here with the astrology of July the 8th through the 14th. And so this week I have just go with me on this. I did an energy approach to the astrology for the week. I'm still going to go through the transits and aspects of the planets, but I have been doing an experiment with the June full moon in Capricorn. A friend of mine sent me a somatic meditation that I've been doing very frequently, and I was in meditation today. It's basically like you're kind of going into old memories, and you can use like a heat pack if you need to, or you can just go and lay down flat and have an eye cover. But there's like a specific meditation to do. And with last week's new moon in the sign of Cancer, I've been kind of working with this energy. Since we have this very special blue moon with a Capricorn full moon, new moon in Cancer, and then July 21st full moon in Capricorn, we're kind of like in this in-between point. And so in meditation today, I was thinking about the aspects of the week and the energy rating for them, because we have a nice flowy week to start off with, and yet the next 2 weeks are going to be very intense astrologically. It's like we had this really nice new moon last week, very flowy energy, and then we're just kind of hit next week with a huge aspect. And it's one of the last alignments we have with Uranus. So I've done many episodes regarding the conjunctions we've had with the Sun, with Venus, Jupiter, with Uranus and Taurus. And now we're going to have, kind of starting off the very beginning of next week, a very important conjunction between Mars and Uranus, and I'll definitely get to that on a Uranian special coming out a little bit later. But because of that, I wanted to kind of approach this week as we lead up to this alignment in the sky with the knowledge of, yes, we do have these very harmonious aspects that we're going to be working with. We also have some tougher aspects, but what's the bigger picture of this whole thing? So I'm going to talk about the big picture here. So one of the things this week, I feel like it's important to really look at the energy, frequency, and vibrations of things. We open up the week with a beautiful sextile with Venus at 26 degrees Cancer and Uranus at 26 degrees Taurus. Now, this is important to note because we've been experiencing a ton of Uranian energy, but Venus having this harmonious sextile to the energy, to me, it's like there's some sort of vibrational tune we're working with here. And a sextile, we even on the same day have a sextile between Mercury at 9 degrees of Leo and Jupiter at 9 degrees of Gemini. A sextile is when planets are 60 degrees away from one another. And it's this energy that I view as that point of tension, but it's not past the point of tension. So it's like the visual I got for the beginning of this week was like stringing a guitar, and that energy of you need to have enough tension in your guitar to create a sound, but it's not past the point of breaking the strings of the guitar, even though guitar strings are pretty sturdy in general. And so I was thinking about that as we go through the week. July 8th, the week opens up. It's very, very harmonious. Even Mercury is trine the North Node, which is at 10 degrees of Aries. On the 9th, we have Pallas Athena, who's been in retrograde since March the 29th. Pallas Athena is an important lesson this week as well, because 26 degrees of Taurus is Algol, the fixed star, also known as Medusa. Medusa, the snake-headed goddess. I truly hate the mythos of Medusa. I think it's screwed up. I think it's very sexist and patriarchy related, how Medusa is described, but Pallas Athena and Medusa have a history. So we've got to take note of this storyline that's happening this week, because Pallas Athena going direct in the sign of Scorpio, she went from 8 degrees of Sagittarius from March 29th to 19 degrees of Scorpio. And she will get back into Sagittarius, and I'm continuing to say all points September, because she's going to be back in Sagittarius September 8th. Now, we do have aspects that we're going through in August that are going to be very tense, and a lot of astrologers are going to bring that up. But if I'm going to look at from the United States political perspective and just things that I'm seeing pattern after pattern, and with Pluto and the eclipses, I'm going to pin this in September. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. A lot of astrologers are going to say it's the aspects in August. I'm going to say put a pin in September and let's see what goes on, because I think conjunction that's happening next week, it's very much folding into what September is going to bring in a political manifestation. So I want to say that because we're getting these, it's almost like we're in this beautiful sound this week, and then next week it's like that's when the beat changes. It's like, oh, I'm listening to this lovely song, and immediately right after, like, we're getting like the heavy metal, like screaming band, next album next week. So it's such an interesting dynamic. And so Pallas Athena is the goddess of wisdom, but she did not like Miss Medusa. She was not fond of Medusa. She is the one who gave her snakes in her hair and was like, I'm jealous, I'm jelly of you, girl. And so that storyline this week is kind of a precursor to the story of the fear of intuition versus intellect, because Pallas Athena is the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of intellect, and she's going forward through the sign of Scorpio, which is not always the nicest sign. I'm not going to say, Scorpio, you're not always nice. Like, if you're a Scorpio sun listening to this, like, there are super nice Scorpios out there, but the energy of Scorpio is about transformation and about going through the death realms. So there's this subconscious death layer we're still working through, even though we're in a whole other season that we were in March, and a whole other eclipse cycle that we're preparing for, and a whole other lunar cycle right now that we're in. We're still kind of working through those points of wisdom. And so the 8th is such a nice, beautiful energy, very flowy. The 9th also brings us that flow as well. We have Jupiter and Gemini sextile the North Node, so there is still purpose and direction and spiritual direction. Now, Neptune is retrograde, so there can be some illusion here. We're still gonna, when it comes to politics, I'm sure the wool is still going to be over a lot of people's eyes regarding certain people's health. Also, on the 10th, we have the Sun trine Saturn in Pisces. I love this. The watery energy just moving with us, inspiring us to create very, very healing energy. 8th, 9th, and 10th. The energy is so nice. It's such a good time to take care of yourself. And we even have a trine with Venus at 29 degrees of Cancer and Neptune, who is retrograde, on the 11th. So these trines are very, very lovely. And on the same day, we have Venus enter the sign of Leo. So last week we had Mercury enter the sign of Leo. With that entrance into the sign of Leo, there is an opposition between Mercury and Pluto, and now we're going to be having this opposition between Venus in Leo and Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, Pluto being retrograde. I don't think it's going to cause a lot of problems this week, just based upon the flow that brought us to Venus entering the sign of Leo. I think that we are kind of pretty much experienced already with this energy. I mean, last year we had something called T-squares with Venus and oppositions to Pluto, and then Jupiter was there when Jupiter was in the earlier degrees of Taurus, and so we've kind of been here, done that with this energy. And last year we got a lot of information because we had a long transit of Venus and Leo. Venus was retrograde for a good part of the summer in the sign of Leo, so I feel like Venus going through the sign of Leo in 2024 is a great lesson, again, of maturity. And I think it's symbolic that we have this blue moon series with 2 Capricorn full moons. We are not the same person we were in 2023. And I think as Venus moves through the sign of Leo, it's gonna give us a lot of like, wow, I really am a lot better off now, and I really have a bigger voice now. Even if you are not a fire sign, like Leo being the lion, we are in the year of strength, the 8-year numerology wise. I just like this. The opposition with Pluto is giving us a little bit of an oomph factor. Now, oppositions are like mirror work. You know, you're getting a direct reflection of the work you've been doing. But I think that in the energy of this week, very symbolic and very nice to say, hey, this is where the grit comes in here. So that is on July the 12th. And then we have on the 13th of July, a first quarter moon at 22 degrees of Libra. So that is our waxing quarter moon before we get into cycle, heading towards the full moon. And as I work with these quarter moons, this is so harmony, flow, this kind of like concerto energy. I don't know, like music stuff, but kind of like we're riding the tides. And then we have this opposition between Venus and Pluto being like, okay, so here's a little bit of like spark here. And then the waxing quarter moon is like, all right, what can you put into application from the release of the full moon in Capricorn to what seeds you were planting with the new moon in Cancer? Now that you've got like a little bit of an energetic sprout here, how do you want to direct this on a more balanced level, Libra? How do you network this out? What are the connections that you need to make in order to make this viable for the future? And I think that this quarter moon, before we get to this mature full moon in Capricorn, which is going to be intense, it's going to be big. I'm interested to see what headlines it's going to bring up. But we have 2 headline weeks ahead. So I think that anything in the headlines this week are really things we're already kind of working through. We'll see. I mean, there's a big hurricane that is unpredictable. Neptune retrograde, Saturn retrograde in Pisces, and then we have all this Uranian energy going on. I'm interested to see. So this nice first quarter moon is a chance to get data on the work you've been doing. But we have a lot of chances to get data. I mean, this Venus opposite Pluto is a chance to get data on all the work you did since last year. Pallas Athena going direct is a chance to get data, because when Pallas Athena went retrograde, now she's an asteroid. This was around and in between an eclipse cycle. March 29th was after a lunar eclipse and right before the total solar eclipse on April 8th. So when Pallas was retrograde, she was at 8 degrees of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the centaur. So it's that energy of like, where do you want to direct the bow and arrow? And in that case, when she went retrograde, it was like, you need to get some more knowledge related to your skill set here. So we're working on knowledge here. And I like this week. I like it a lot. I like the creativity factor of this week. I like the fact that it is a really good setup to next week's literal punchline. We are opening up next week strong. It is the cosmic punchline of a joke. I mean, for us, it's probably not a joke, but for the universe, it's a joke because Mars and Uranus meet in the sky pretty much first thing next week in the morning. It's a little bit of a rile up energy next week, but we've seen it. We've seen a lot of this already. It's just that we're getting the spiciest planet meeting the planet of chaos at a really interesting degree in astrology, 26 degrees of Taurus. So I will get to that on a Uranian special, and you can find me on all social media. You can find me on YouTube, Substack, Patreon, Rumble, Instagram, TikTok, X, and more. Find me at trustyourglitter.com. Christy Belich, Trust Your Glitter. Thank you so much and have a great week ahead.